Hey, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're watching this. It's a good time for math. And here we are. Hopefully this is the last video we'll have to do in a while. And I hope you're starting to get the hang of factoring. If not, well, we're going to do it a little bit more in this lesson. So um, hopefully you guys have your work from your homework. We're going to go over a few problems off of that. And today we're going to start part 2 of section 2-3. So you might want to grab your note packet and check out what is coming up next. All right, so first, I think this was like question 3 or something on the homework. You had to factor this one here. All right, so first let's read the signs. Okay, plus sign here. Always read the second sign first. That means they're the same. Now you see a minus sign for the first sign, so that means they're both minus. All right, so how can we get 3x squared? You would do x and 3x. And how do we get 2? 1 and 2. Now remember, you could also use the factors 2 and 1. Now when you have the same signs, you want to think multiply, then add to give you the middle. All right, so now a couple of you guys put there is no way to factor this. Well, there is a way to factor this, and there isn't too many possibilities, so you just didn't try putting stuff in the bubbles enough, okay? X and 3x, all right, so we're going to put x and 3x in. Now you put 3x first or x first. Doesn't really matter here because the signs are actually both the same. All right, now is it 1 and 2 or 2 then 1? All right, or none of them. Now some of you put none of them. But guess what? If we put a 2 here and a 1 here, it works. Okay. Remember, you need to multiply 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 1 times 1, or x times 1 is 1. So you got 1x and 6x, that makes 7x. All right, and you could verify that by multiplying the outside, multiplying the inside, and making sure it's the middle term, okay? I keep saying it over and over and over again. You have to get the middle term. If you have a negative and a negative, it's more negatives, so your answer is -7. That's the middle term. So this is the factored form of this one, okay? All right, for this next one, I won't do the whole thing, but I saw 2 different answers, okay? One of them is really factored fully and one of them isn't, okay? Some of you forgot to take out the greatest common factor, and then you had to work a lot harder, and you wrote down this as your answer, but actually it should be this particular one, okay? And when you're checking it to get the middle is not going to be this middle, okay? It's going to be the middle after you take out a 2. Okay, so first you pull out a 2, and so the middle of this particular one would be -1x. All right, so this would be your first step. Take out the 2, rewrite it as this, all right, and then list out the factors, then you'll get this particular answer. Different signs, and then outside and inside each should give you -1x. Okay, and that's it for that one. All right. Let's look at this one. Okay, is there a GCF in this particular one? I think this is the next to the last one. Okay, no GCF. All right, so let's go ahead and list the factors. There's actually 2 ways you could get 4x squared by splitting up x and x. It's x and 4x and 2x and 2x. All right, for 6, you have 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and then you got the alternate versions of them. Okay. 3 and 2. Okay, so what will give you -5x? All right, let's check out the signs. The signs are, it's going to be different because you have a -6 here, so that means you have some positives and some negatives. All right, so you have a plus here and a minus here. Now let's see how to get -5x. Okay, so let's start by multiplying and then subtract to get the middle. So 4 times 6 is 24. Not going to do it. 4 times 3 is 12. X times 2 is 2x. 12 minus 2, not going to do it. So you can keep going through the factors, but I think I found the one that works here. It's this pair and this pair. 4 times 4x times 2 is 8x. X times 3 is 3x. 8x minus 3x is 5x. All right, so now I don't know to put x here or 4x here, but I'm going to guess x. So we got x here, 4x here, and then 3 and 2. Okay, now remember you want to actually do 2 times 4, so I'm going to put the 2 and 4 next to each other in the inside here. All right, now it looks like I'm going to get more positives if I do it this way. So I have my signs wrong. I need to switch it. All right, so make that a minus and make this one a plus, because I need to have more negatives to give me -5 in the end. So this is -2, and then the other number here is 3. Okay, so we do the outsides and the insides to make sure we get the middle. -8x plus 3x is equal to -5x. All right, so just be careful to check. All right, now let's go on to the new part, part 2. All right, factored form of a quadratic function. So we learned about vertex form, standard form, and this is factored form. So we need to know how to factor to do factored form. All right, so here is a new word for you guys, and you might have heard of this, but it's called a zero of a function, okay? A zero of a function is a number, z, for which you put a number into the function, it gives you 0, okay? We can think of this also as simply the x-intercepts of a function, okay? Because the y value is 0 here at the x-intercept. So a zero of a function is the same as the x-intercept. So graphically, it's a point, z, comma 0. Now let's say we factored our function. If we factor our function, how does that relate to the x-intercepts or zeros of the graph? Well, it's a pretty simple answer. Each factor that you get, okay, will determine 1, 0. Okay, now that's each linear factor, okay, will determine 1, 0. If you have like a quadratic factor, it would actually determine more than 1, 0 potentially. All right. So the x value that makes that factor equal to 0 also makes the whole function equal to 0, and so is 0 or x-intercept of the graph. All right, so if we have this particular function, quadratic function in standard form, how do we find its x-intercepts? Well, simply, we factor, okay? Factor to find the x-intercepts, all right? Which are the zeros, okay? That new vocabulary. So we're going to try to factor this function. So let's look at the first term here. It's x and x. Let's look at the signs. It's -8, so we have to have a plus sign and a minus sign. The signs are different to give you a -8 here. And factors of 8, 1 and 8, 2 and 4, that's it. Okay, and we want to get a positive 2x in the middle. So we need to have more positives, +4, -2. This is the pair that works. All right, so that's it factored. And guess what? We can find the x-intercepts now by setting the factors equal to 0 and figuring out what x would be to give you 0 here. Okay, so x equal -4 would give you 0 for that first factor. And the other factor, set it equal to 0. And then, okay, so you got to add 2 to both sides. And the last one we had to subtract 4. Sorry, I just assumed you guys knew that. All right, so anyhow, we got x equals 2. So here, 2 would give you 0. So we have 2 zeros, 2 x-intercepts, -4, and 2. All right, and so these particular zeros will help you to locate where the vertex is. Okay, so we just had to find the zeros, but graphically, if you had to graph this, what you could do is put these zeros on the graph, your x-intercepts. So at -4 is one, and here at +2 is the other one. And where do you think the vertex is? Okay, well, these two zeros are going to be equally distant from the vertex. Okay, so if we were graphing it, the vertex would be located halfway in between these two zeros. So there is total distance of 6 apart, so it would be located at the point right here. So your vertex would be somewhere down here, probably even lower, but your parabola would look roughly like this. Okay, so I mean that's the next part of the lesson. We're not going to really worry about graphing it yet, but you know, hopefully you kind of get the idea there. All right, so here's another little thing in this lesson, and that's solving equations that are quadratic equations, not graphing necessarily now, but by solving them by factoring. Okay, to solve a quadratic equation by factoring, the first thing you want to do is set the equation equal to 0 on one side. So move all your terms to one side, set it equal to 0, then completely factor it, and then we're going to use something called the zero product property, okay, which states if a times b equals 0, then it's either a that's equal to 0 or b that's equal to 0. All right, so when you factor it, you're creating a and b, okay? A is one binomial, one set of parentheses. B is another binomial or another set of parentheses, okay? So either one of those particular things have to be equal to 0, because when you multiply, if one is 0, the whole thing is 0, all right? And then you set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So let's go ahead and try these two examples here. All right, so first let's get the equation equal to 0. So all I'm going to do is move over the 42. In order to do that, you have to undo. So subtract 42 on both sides of the equation. Alrighty, so we have x squared plus x minus 42 equals 0. Alright, now we're going to have to factor this. So make some bubbles here. What are the signs going to be? They're different. Plus and minus. X squared, x times x will give me x squared. Okay, now factors of 42, that will give me 1x in the middle. It's 7 and 6, okay? You don't even need to list them out if you can just recognize them that quick. All right, so it's 7x is positive. You gotta be very careful here to check it right, okay? So a lot of times people mess up the sign. So you have 7x and negative 6x, okay? And that will give me positive 1. Positive 7 minus 6 equals 1. 1x in the middle, all right? Now, we're wanting to solve this equation, not just factor it. So now we're going to set each factor equal to 0, use the zero product property, either x plus 7 equals 0 or x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, so if we set the factors equal to 0, we have two one-step equations. Okay, the one solution to this is negative 7, and you could probably guess the other solution already. You add 6 to both sides, the other solution is going to be positive 6. And you can check it by substituting. You know, if we just substitute 6 real quick, 6 squared is 36, 36 plus 6 equals 42. Substitute negative 7 squared is positive 49, 49 plus a negative 7 will give me 42. Okay, so checks. All right, let's go with the next one here. In this particular one, you have two terms on the right and one term on the left. When you're factoring, you typically do not want to get a negative x squared term. So you might be tempted to move this one over here. Instead, I'm going to move these two terms over to the other side. So to get rid of negative 9x, I'm going to add it. To get rid of 5, I'm going to subtract it. Okay, so that will make this side equal to 0. And my new rewritten expression on this side would be 2x squared plus 9x minus 5. All right, this one's a little bit harder to factor because you don't have just x and x. It's x and 2x now, but here it's just 1 and 5. Okay, I went ahead and I factored it correctly. Remember, goal to get 9x in the middle, so I had 10x, okay, minus 1x to give me 9x. And then, once you have it factored, put each factor equal to 0 and solve to get your two x values. Now this one's a little harder to solve. It's a two-step. Add 1 to both sides, then you have to divide by 2. Okay, 2x equals 1. So x is actually equal to a half here on this particular one. So we have negative 5 and a half as our two possible answers. Alright, next you'll see two you-try problems. I'll work these ones out and post the solutions to it. I can explain them right now, but I'm running out of time on this video. So I'm also going to post a homework assignment that will be due on Monday here. I hope to see you guys in class and have a great weekend. Take care, God bless, and bye bye.